Okay, when you think about a company audit, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For most people, I guess, it's that big formal report, right? The one that goes to shareholders. The one with the auditor's opinion of the financials. It's sort of the public stamp of approval, or maybe disapproval sometimes. But here's something interesting, maybe a bit unexpected. While that public report is, absolutely crucial, there's actually this other critical reporting output from the whole audit process. And it's one most people never even see. It can often be the silent hero, really, stopping major issues before they hit the headlines. So today, we're doing a deep dive into this, lesser known but incredibly important piece of the audit puzzle is the auditor's communication to what they call those charged with governance. We'll explore what it actually is, why it holds so much weight, and what surprising insights it gives us into how companies really get their financial house in order, behind the scenes. Okay, let's unpack this crucial, maybe hidden document.
That's a great way to put it, because while that public report to shareholders definitely has the main audit opinion, that really important conclusion on the financial statements there is, like you said, an equally vital communication, and it comes directly out of the audit process itself. This is the auditor's communication to those charged with governance. And its importance, it really can't be overstated. It acts as this direct private channel, making sure that these key individuals have a really clear, comprehensive understanding of any significant issues that came up during the audit before potentially they become public problems.
Okay, so those charged with governance. It sounds very formal, almost a bit bureaucratic. Who exactly are these key players getting this kind of unique behind-the-scenes report?
Yeah, it does sound formal, doesn't it? But the term governance here, it just refers to the people entrusted with the high-level stuff, the supervision, control, and direction of the entity. So generally, we're talking about the folks right at the very top. This usually means the executive directors, the non-executive directors on the board, and very importantly, the audit committee, if the company has one. Think of them as the ultimate guardians of the company's integrity, sort of. And often, the engagement letter, which is basically the contract for the audit, that will spell out precisely who gets the specific communication.
Right. That clears it up nicely. So we know who gets it. The big question for me then is, what specific issues are auditors actually putting in this report? What kind of information are these high-level decision makers getting that, say, the public isn't? And why isn't it just handled by the accounting team already?
That's a really good question, and it gets right to the heart of why this document is so valuable. There's an international auditing standard, ISA 260, which gives pretty clear guidance on the kinds of things auditors should ordinarily include. These are often called findings from the audit, or sometimes you hear management letter points, and they cover, a pretty wide range of critical details. So first off, there's the overall approach and scope of the audit itself. That includes any limitations encountered. This gives the governance folks a full picture of what was looked at and how it was looked at.
Okay, the big picture first.
Exactly. Then specific accounting policies the company uses, and crucially, any changes to those policies that could materially affect the financial statements. And materially here basically means, big enough to potentially influence someone's financial decisions based on those statements.
Got it. Significant stuff.
Right. It also includes any adjustments that came up because of the audit procedures. Again, things that could materially impact the financials. Another really significant point is any material events or uncertainties that might cast doubt on the company's going concern status.
Meaning, like, if they can actually stay in business.
Precisely. Their ability to keep operating for the foreseeable future. And these would require disclosure in the financial statements anyway.
Okay.
Also, any disagreements the auditor had with management, say, over how something should be accounted for or what should be disclosed.
Potential conflicts.
Yes. And importantly, any expected modifications to that public audit report, that's basically a heads up if the auditor thinks they can't give a completely clean opinion and will have to point out specific issues publicly, like errors or problems with the scope of the audit.
Okay, like an early warning.
Exactly. And finally, and this one is often really critical, it details any material weaknesses they found in the company's internal systems and controls.
Material weaknesses. Can you give an example?
Sure. Think of significant gaps or failures in how a company manages its own processes. Maybe how they record sales or control access to IT systems. Things that are meant to ensure accurate financial reporting and prevent fraud.
Okay, that list seems pretty comprehensive, quite specific. But I'm still trying to fully grasp the real gravity here. Why are these seemingly granular details so vital to communicate directly to the very top? What's really at stake if they don't get this info, or if maybe management just brushes it off?
Well, here's the thing. This isn't just about ticking boxes on a checklist. It's often the only effective early warning system for potentially huge corporate issues. Issues that, without this kind of private intervention, could genuinely spiral into public scandals or even financial meltdowns.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, the why is really fundamental to the audit's value. This communication makes sure the auditors bring these critical points directly to the attention of the people ultimately responsible, the ones overseeing the accounting financial reporting function. It's not just about flagging problems, it's about enabling action.
Enabling action. How so?
Well, for example, imagine a company's internal accounting team. Maybe they're unknowingly processing revenue incorrectly. To the outside world, maybe everything looks fine for a while, but the auditor's private communication to the board or audit committee would highlight this material error. It lets management discuss it, understand the implications, and crucially, decide what needs to be done.
Right.
Or maybe management was completely unaware of, say, certain control weaknesses in their IT systems, things that could lead to trouble. This report gives them that immediate chance to put corrective actions in place, potentially preventing data breaches or financial misstatements later on. And this is really crucial. If the auditors find material errors in the financial statements, they have to highlight them to management. Management then gets the opportunity to correct those errors before the audit opinion is finalized and issued.
Oh, so they get a chance to fix it first.
Exactly. Potentially avoiding that dreaded modified audit report that goes out to the shareholder. It's like the auditor giving them a chance to clean things up before it becomes a public declaration of a problem.
I see now how it's really designed to be a proactive tool. It sounds like it almost transforms the audit from just looking backwards to being a vital mechanism for continuous improvement. But you mentioned earlier, it's not just about these findings, these problems. What other, maybe broader issues might an auditor raise with leadership? Things that aren't strictly errors, but still important context.
You're absolutely right. It often goes beyond just the identified problems. The communication covers a broader range of issues the auditor might want to raise. It offers a more holistic view of the audit process and the company's overall financial health. So this could include details of any threats to the auditor's own independence and objectivity.
Their impartiality.
Yes, and what safeguards they've put in place to mitigate those threats. This helps assure the board that the auditor is unbiased.
Makes sense.
It can also provide explanations of the actual audit approach used, like the concept of materiality we touched on earlier, which, just to remind listeners, is essentially about how significant an error or omission needs to be to likely influence the economic decisions of someone reading the financial statements.
Right, the threshold.
Exactly. Auditors might also give a summary of key business risks they identified during the audit, perhaps including their assessment of how likely those risks are to actually happen. There's also often a review of the contents of the management representation letter.
What's that again?
That's a formal document where management basically confirms certain things in writing to the auditor, like confirming they've provided all the relevant information or their assessment of internal controls.
Okay, a formal sign-off from management.
Pretty much. And importantly, where it's relevant, the communication often includes recommendations from the auditor to help improve the entity's internal systems and controls. Not just finding weaknesses, but suggesting fixes.
So suggestions for improvement, too.
Yes. And, this raises an interesting point. How does explaining the audit approach or identifying business risks actually empower those charged with governance?
Well, I think it transforms the audit from being this kind of black box into a more transparent process. It lets the company's leadership truly understand the basis for the auditor's opinion and also highlights areas where they could make operational improvements. It gives them the full context, you see, not just the final conclusion.
That's a really crucial distinction. It definitely elevates the whole dialogue beyond just checking compliance boxes. So, let's talk practicalities for a second. When and how does this critical communication actually happen to make sure it has the maximum impact? Is it like a quick chat over coffee or something more formal?
Good question. Timing is key. The standard says the auditor should communicate these matters on a timely basis. The idea is so management can actually react to the issues raised as quickly as possible.
Makes sense. Be prompt. especially for findings related to the accounting and financial reporting side of things. Those really should be communicated before the financial statements get formally approved by management. This allows time for any material errors to potentially be corrected by management before the audit report gets issued, which, as we said, is critical for avoiding a modification in that public report.
Right. Got to give them time to fix it.
Exactly. Now, as for the form of communication, in most cases, it will be in writing. Actually, in places like the UK and Ireland, a written communication is a specific requirement of the standard.
Ooh, okay. Mandatory there.
Yes. And it's also worth noting that a communication should technically be issued even if there aren't any significant matters to report. In that case, it just formally states that, there were no significant findings from the audit to communicate this time.
Huh. Interesting. Even if there's nothing, you still report nothing.
That's the idea. For completeness. Now, outside the UK and Ireland, the communication could potentially be oral. But if it is, the auditor absolutely must keep a detailed written record of that discussion, covering the significant matters in their audit working papers. Documentation is crucial.
Okay, so written is preferred, maybe required, but oral is possible if documented.
Correct. But regardless of whether it's oral or written, the whole process really should be seen as a two-way dialogue. It's vital that management gets a proper opportunity to respond to the auditor about the matters raised. They can ask questions, discuss the implications, and ultimately decide on the path forward. It's not just a lecture from the auditor.
A dialogue, not a monologue. Got it. Okay, so to sort of summarize what we've unpacked today, this communication to those charged with governance, it's clearly not just some bureaucratic formality. It's actually a truly crucial reporting output of the audit. It provides management with vital, often unseen information and a critical chance to act on it.
Precisely. It ensures management is fully informed about significant matters that come up during the audit. It gives them that chance to respond directly to the auditor, ask questions, seek clarification, and most importantly, it empowers them to take concrete action to actually improve the entity's accounting and financial reporting function. We connect this back to the bigger picture. This dialogue really elevates the audit beyond just a compliance exercise. It becomes a genuine tool for continuous improvement and, frankly, for organizational health. It's that early warning system almost that can protect a company from its own potential blind spots.
So, thinking about this, what does it all mean for you, the listener, the learner, thinking about companies and transparency out there in the wider world? Well, maybe next time you see a company's published financial report, take a moment. Consider the incredible amount of behind-the-scenes dialogue, like this communication we've discussed, that likely shaped its reliability. What does this hidden communication really imply about the auditor's deeper role? Not just as a watchdog, perhaps, but as a critical advisor, helping maintain the very health and integrity of an organization well beyond just the numbers on the page. Something to think about.